also congratulates Rikesh Sugadam, who's watching down under. A big win for him as an owner.
Yeah, fantastic. It's his first Group 1 as well, and he'll be absolute.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We would like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet runs now through March 30th with high-quality action throughout, including the Florida Derby on Saturday, March 29th. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Again, we're a little early today because, as has been the case through much of the fall season, once daylight savings ended, there's an early start today at Aqueduct, 11:40, so we're on a little bit early. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll be joined by our friend Brian Nadeau from Gulfstream Park. You can see him every day on the Gulfstream schedule. The pregame, the pre-race commentary and whatnot, but you can also find his selections on the Capital OTB one sheet at capitalotb.com. But they have a couple of nice stakes today, Tropical Park Derby, Tropical Park Oaks on the card today. So I thought we'd reach out to Brian a little bit later on. And also coming up in a few, we have Matt Hegarty from the Daily Racing Forum. He's kind of the hard news guy at the Racing Forum. And, he covers the industry confabs that happen during the year, although there's a shrinking number of those. But one of those that is still a regular happened earlier this week, the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program Symposium for the first few days of the week. They had a number of interesting panels. And I thought we'd reach out to Matt and maybe get a little recap of what happened down in Arizona this week and what came out of it and, some of the participants and whatnot. So that's coming up a little bit later on as well. Let me remind you that today here at Capital OTB, $100 trifecta challenge this afternoon at the Clubhouse Racebook. We'd love to have you come on down, enjoy all the racing action, and maybe get a little extra something with the trifecta challenge. That's the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Also today, the Turfway Bounty Bet continues. That is every day at Turfway. Do note, however, we're just going to have a little break next week. Our person who kind of administrates and has to do the paperwork will be out. So I'm just going to take a little break on the Turfway Bounty Bet next week. So keep that in mind. But it's still in action for this weekend. So you can play today, certainly, the Turfway Bounty Bet. It's the early pick 5 at Turfway. All right, that catches us up. Oh, tomorrow, Football Sundays. Don't forget that. If you want to come in and watch all the football action and all the racing action, you can do that Sundays throughout the NFL season. I pulled up because we're now 12/24, December 12/14, December 14th. So really a couple of weeks left in the year. And I pulled up the stats for jockeys and trainers nationally, both wins and money, just to see where we stand at this point in the year on the jockey side of things. On the money side, no surprise, because he's the guy that has set a new single season mark for stakes wins and graded stakes wins. So on the money side, Flavien Prat is in the lead amongst the jockeys with just under $37 million. Irad Ortiz, second, just under $32 million. Tyler Gaffleone has $28 million. Jose Ortiz, $25. Luis Saez, $24. Brian Hernandez, you put the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks on the resume during the year. Brian Hernandez is sitting at number 6 with $20 million. Manny Franco. John Velasquez, top 10 money earner this year at number 8, Florent Giraud, number 9, and Dylan Davis having a really good year, rounds out the top 10 as far as the jockeys with money won. On the win side of things, Irad Ortiz is way ahead with 302 wins. Paco Lopez is second, who is now, obviously, after the situation last week, he will not be adding to his total. Paco Lopez sits second with 269. So, again, it's 302 to 269. That, obviously, is a done deal for the year. Jaime Rodriguez, 265. So, again, it starts to get close when you get down to second, third, fourth, and fifth. So, Jaime Rodriguez, third. Jose Ortiz, fourth. Miguel Sanchez, fifth. Tyler Gaffleon, sixth. Flavian Prat, seventh. Luis Saez, eighth. Dylan Davis, ninth. And Edgar Zayas, 10th as far as wins for the year. So Flavian Prat, money win, number 1. Irad Ortiz wins overall. And again, Flavian Prat has had such a good year and set the stakes mark, overall stakes and graded stakes. I would think he's likely to be more than likely to be the jockey eclipse. I think that's kind of been the consensus since the Breeders' Cup. On the trainer side of things, as far as year end, and again, a couple weeks left. On the money side of things, Chad Brown leads with 30 million. I'm just looking, my columns are condensed here. 30 million. Steve Asmussen, 28 million. Brad Cox, 27. Todd Pletcher, 19. Mark Casse, 17. Then the remainder of the top 10. Safi Joseph, Ken McPeak, very good year. Mike Maker, Bob Baffert, and Christophe Clement round out your top 10. Bill Motts at 11. So Chad Brown, the leader on the money side amongst the trainers. On the win side of things, again, this is with 2 weeks, it would be hard to catch up. Steve Asmussen, 392. Jamie Ness with 350. Safi, 251. Brad Cox, 232. Mark Casse, 226. Then rounding out the top 10, Chad Brown, Anthony Ferrier, Mike Maker, Brittany Russell, Todd Pletcher. So plenty of familiar names in there, but it looks like Steve Asmussen has the number of wins kind of in his back pocket. But Chad Brown, the money. And with the races Chad Brown won this year, he's certainly in a good spot. They can make a case for Ken McPeak, certainly, with the Derby and the Oaks, and having an excellent year himself. That category might be interesting, but as I say, it seems like Ken McPeak is more of a long shot probably, but you can certainly make the case. Did want to mention a little bit later on today, actually this evening, it'll go off 3:54 California time, so 6:54 actually our time out at Los Alamitos today. It's the Grade 2 Los Alamitos Futurity for 2-year-olds. It's a short field, and it looks like Gaming will be the likely favorite for. No shock, Bob Baffert comes out of a second place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Flavian Prat will be on board this afternoon. And I'm just looking. Baffert has 3 of the 5 in here. Mellencamp also as a maiden will go. And Getaway Car, who was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Journalism and Rank round out, again, a short field out there. The Los Al Futurity, again, later today out at Los Alamitos in Southern California. All right, we'll take a break. And when we come back, we will be joined by Matt Hegarty. Again, Matt was out at the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program earlier this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Plenty of interesting panels and panelists, and we'll get a little recap of that. And if any new industry news or industry innovation came out of it, all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resorts Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. As promised before the break, joined now by Matt Hegarty from the Daily Racing Forum. And again, one of the annual industry confabs that folks focus on during the year is the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program Symposium. Lots of great panels this year, panelists as well, and out there covering it all for the Racing Forum, Matt Hegarty. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Chad. How you doing?
Not bad. Happy to have you on and talk a little bit about it. We were talking in the break. You, an alumnus, University of Arizona and the Racetrack Industry Program, and I probably should have pulled up the picture. There was a nice picture of the gathering at the Symposium of alumni, but it's a prestigious group, as it were. I think a lot of people would find it very interesting and don't realize all the people on the training and the horse side of things, but then a lot on the administrative side of things at racetracks and in the industry as well. But it's a really nice program out there. If any young folks are listening, the Racetrack Industry Program is certainly something to think about if you're interested in pursuing a career in horse racing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reason it has so many high-profile graduates is that people who have a passion for racing are drawn to it, right? There's only two programs in the United States that offer a horse racing course. One is at Tucson, that's the oldest one, and the other one is in Louisville. You already have people go into that already with a passion for racing, so they normally emerge with that same passion.
And I was thinking as I was driving in this morning, I remember I was a panelist at the simulcast conference years ago. I think that's gone by the wayside. I said at the beginning, the number of these confabs that happened during the year has shrunk a little bit. I'm up here at Saratoga. We have obviously a couple during the year and this one. And I think that's kind of it, right?
Yeah, you'd have to go internationally to find a conference of similar importance, right? You have the conference around the Arc de la Triomphe in France, and then you have the Asian Racing Conference, which are both kind of on the same stage as the UFA conference.
Let's go through it a little bit. Again, there was the beginning of the week, 3 days, lots of interesting panels and panelists. And I wanted to hit on Lisa Lazarus spoke. Heisa has certainly been in the news. And she's been showing up at these various panels and on the media talking about it. And Heisa has been in the news. Talk a little bit about her presentation and if there was anything new to come out of the Arizona conference with regard to Heisa.
Yeah, in regards to Heisa, they gave Lisa a chance for some opening remarks at the beginning of the conference. Now, they normally have in the past couple of years reserved a panel for the last of the conference that features both, not only Lazarus, but a lot of Heisa officials. And because that's in the regular panel format, it's opened up to questions at the end. So that panel has, in the past 3 years, been kind of a referendum on how everyone sees Heisa, because you do have audience members interacting. In this case, it was just Lisa Lazarus giving her update on what Heisa has done so far and what they're looking forward to doing in the future. Unaddressed were some of those lawsuit challenges that have been creeping through the courts over the last couple of years and that are destined for a Supreme Court judgment. But she did the most newsworthy thing that she said, and something I focused on for my first filing, was that the fatality rate is going to almost certainly be under 1.00 horses per 1,000 starts for this calendar year. U.S. racing has never been under that number. It is a more than 50% reduction since the industry first started tracking these in 2009. And as I wrote in my first filing, this is one of those stories that just does not get discussed, how successful the racing industry has been in reducing their fatality numbers. Yeah,
that is absolutely the truth. And certainly, HISA has to play into that over the past couple of years because the majority of racetracks have been under their rules. There has been some controversies. We'll see how those things play out. You also wrote a little bit about, and there was discussion with HIWA, the Horse Racing Integrity and Welfare Unit. For folks who aren't familiar, and I have to admit, I don't know if I'm totally clued in myself. What is the relationship between HIWA and HISA?
Right. So HISA was the private company that was created by the legislation in 2020. That legislation said that they should hire a independent enforcement agency for its drug control policies. So HISA went out to a company called Drug Free Sport International, which is a private company that does drug testing programs, enforces drug testing programs for other sports, including Major League Baseball and football, National League Football. And then they created a company called the Horse Racing Integrity and Welfare Unit, which is that subsidiary that enforces HISA's policies.
And it sounded from reading your article that HIWA, at least in the beginning, had to kind of figure things out a little bit and get their feet wet, because they weren't necessarily familiar with racetrack and the communication networks and whatnot. But from reading it, it seems like they are now maybe getting a little more up to speed in that area.
Yeah, there was a lot of candid discussion about the capabilities of the investigators, their knowledge base as they came into the race industry. A lot of these guys would have been hired, guys and girls, would have been hired by Sean Richards, who's the head of their investigations unit. Sean Richards had a 28-year career at the FBI, which included being one of the lead investigators on we'll just call it the Service Navarro investigation that started or the indictments were released in 2020 that led to the guilty pleas of more than 24 people connected to standardbred and thoroughbred racing. So a lot of these guys did come from a background of being investigators in different fields, and it certainly sounded as if there was a substantial learning curve when they started arriving on backstretches in the United States. Now, they say that those agents are getting up to speed, that their knowledge base has been increasing, but it did sound like there was some tension between racing regulatory personnel who had to work with these investigators at the very beginning, and there's probably still some tension there.
And again, it seems like maybe they're figuring it out and getting up to speed. We'll knock wood and hope that's the case. But there's the news out of HISA and HIWA for the week, or at least a little overview of it. And again, you can catch Matt's recap in the written form if you pull up drf.com. A number of articles came out earlier this week. There was also discussion, and I found it interesting. I always find Marshall Graham interesting. I grab him whenever I can up at Saratoga and have him sit in, and I could probably sit in with him for an entire hour and get great information. But he was on a panel that was kind of talking about, how best to serve the bettors and how best to use technology and whatnot. What came out of, panel discussions as far as sports betting versus horse racing, takeout, and the big, elephant in the room, the computer-assisted wagering groups.
Yeah, Marshall is certainly one of the sharpest people in racing, definitely one of the sharpest people as far as dealing with the economic theories behind wagering markets, pricing strategies for those wagering markets, both on the supplier side and on the betting side. And we have heard this discussion that took place on Wednesday at the Symposium about the proper pricing strategies for racing to compete in a much more crowded marketplace with the legalization of sports wagering in whatever it is, 34 states now, something like that. That big argument for some people centers on price. Does racing takeout make it competitive with sports wagering? You look at how big sports wagering has become, how many young people from desirable demographics they have been able to attract. And because I've covered this thing ad nauseum, I did kind of just pick out some interesting things. And one of the things I picked out was that if we don't think horse racing is attractive from a pricing standpoint, then I'm not sure where we'll be competitive, because if you are a sports gambler, sports betting was legalized here in Kentucky, and I'll be honest, I don't play sports, and one of the reasons is because their pricing is so bad.
Yeah.
It's actually been revelatory to me. I did grow up in a betting family. I remember when those coin flip lines were 5 cents, and they are not 5 cents anymore. They are far higher. The parlay prices that these places offer, which are some of the most popular bets on the sports wagering platform, are terrible. Our pick 3, pick 4, pick 5 bets are way better from a pricing standpoint. So I think the racing industry is kind of grappling with that, trying to figure out whether or not it's priced. We know that the retail players, the guys that play every week on horse racing, are getting ground down. But is price preventing racing from getting customers? I'm not sure we have a good argument there.
Yeah, and you make a great point, because I thought about this as well. That you look at those parlay bets, which get all the attention in sports. Oh, this guy put down $2 and walks away with it, and so the parlay bets get the attention. But you're right. You actually look and compare the pricing. We could do a better job maybe of making that obvious and pointing people to horse race. And I think there's also, and it sounds like that was addressed as well, and typically is when this discussion comes up at these kind of things, how do we promote horse racing? There is a certain learning curve to horse racing that maybe other forms of gambling don't quite have.
Yeah, and that's familiarity, as Marshall Graham pointed out, right? Almost every person in the United States grows up with some familiarity of the rules, tactics, strategies of basketball, baseball, and football. They grow up with that. They don't necessarily grow up with a familiarity with horse racing. Marshall did point out, look, it's just horses running in a circle, and the first one who gets to the finish line wins, right? But approaching horse racing as a betting enterprise, that's much more difficult, right? We all know that. But is there a difference in how the knowledge set that people bring to major sports? They've developed that knowledge set over decades. And I don't think it should be that hard for people to develop that knowledge set in racing, at least from a betting standpoint. As you probably believe, as most of us believe who are in this world, horse racing, if you are good at analyzing data, is the best betting game out there by far. Obviously, price is still a problem. Obviously, we don't like competing with these CAWs, but I feel like I have a far better chance at cashing a big bet in horse racing than I do on any other sport. But that's because I've been familiar with the betting mechanics of the game since I was a young child.
Yeah, I'm right in the same ballpark. I mean, I say all the time, I love the game and got into the game. It's like a mental puzzle, and you spend a few minutes trying to solve the puzzle, and at the end, if you solve it right, you get paid. And so I like that. And it's interesting that there may be a different perspective for younger people now, as in respect to that. And part of that is the computer-assisted wagering. Computer is a big part of that equation, obviously. And it seemed like there was discussion earlier this week out in Arizona, and certainly there has been for a while now, of providing maybe, using AI or providing some new tools to people that may draw some folks into the game.
Yeah, we did have a panel on, what AI could help with, and some of the ideas I heard were some of the chatbot type things that are helping people understand other issues, but in a interactive way, right? There are ways in which you can just talk to your phone and it will give you answers back. And if you understand how AI works, it gives you kind of the least common denominator, but in a human voice of the question you're asking, right? Could you ask it, develop me an exact strategy in this 10-horse field in which I want the favorite to finish out of the first two? If you do, I think it's going to give you back what everyone else is finding out anyway, right? It gives you the least common denominator. So I don't know if those tools are going to help the established handicapper. Maybe they could help somebody new to the game. But it's also just regurgitating information. It's not giving you the background as to why that strategy is the proper one, to cash a bet in that race. I know that's kind of a complicated, convoluted answer, but we have to recognize that the horse player of the future is going to be one who understands that betting market, the pari-mutuel market, and why it works in that person's favor.
Yeah, I printed out the agenda for the symposium the other day, and that panel you referred to, artificial intelligence, down at the bottom of the description of it, it says, editor's note, this panel session was written by ChatGPT. I thought that was kind of it. But I agree totally. Even getting beyond horse racing, these AI, this ChatGPT, they are, as you say, regurgitating things they found out on the internet. And if they start to replace the original content, then eventually down the road, don't we just get it's all regurgitating stuff that it has regurgitated? So there are certainly question marks even beyond horse racing, but it'll be interesting. Go ahead.
If we're just using AI to regurgitate what AI has regurgitated, then we are headed for a bleak future.
Yeah, no, yeah. I totally agree there.
But where AI and machine learning is going to help out, and this goes back to Lisa Lazarus and the fatality rate, that's where it's going to help. It's going to be able to find these connections, more machine learning than AI. Machine learning is going to be able to find these connections that are very difficult to find by the human eye and human brain alone. And you're seeing these generational leaps in the data that are occurring over the last 3 years because of it. And we have to think, and in some cases, HISA, let me qualify that. In some cases, HISA inherited this effort, right? The racing industry was doing a lot of stuff before HISA came along to address this problem. But if you look at Santa Anita, where their number is now 0.40 per 1,000 starts, they are now in their third year of using machine learning to refine the data that they're getting, to refine the characteristics they're getting from video cameras placed all around the track. And they're getting better at their job. It's pretty exciting what it can do for these data-driven projects that racetracks are undergoing right now to try to reduce that fatality number.
And that has been interesting, the technology playing into that with the wearable technology and whatnot. And as you say, some AI and machine learning, if that can help that out, that's great. And on a kind of a related note, there was a panel that also got some feedback on it. Pat Cummings was on the panel. He's now working with Mike Rapoli and their organization. One of their focuses has been aftercare funding, and there was certainly some discussion about that on one of the panels. And what was the takeaway there is it seems like even that panel had some ideas were tossed out there, and it was kind of, well, that's a great idea, but here are the unintended consequences. So it seems like it's something that the industry still wrestles with, but I think aftercare has become a real topic in the industry for the past 10 or 15 years, and is now even more so, perhaps.
Yeah, I think, the revelation coming out of that one is that one of the mandates that Mike Repole had given Pat Cummings was to take a deep dive into this aftercare ecosystem, if you will, and find out how we can make this work better and more efficiently. Their idea is to hit a horse's earnings along every stage of their career, which would then go into a large fund, which would probably work with the TAA, which is kind of how it works now, to distribute this money to accredited aftercare organizations. There did seem to be some resistance to that idea of raising money at every step of the way. Philosophically, I guess I would have to agree with Pat and Mike Repole here on this one. This is a issue that I've tried to come up with some solutions on, and all of those depended on every stage of the horse's career. Earnings from any of those transactions or performances being sent into a fund. But we will see what happens in the future on that. Mike Repole brings a lot of weight to his ideas. Pat is a very intelligent, very determined person, and so we will see what happens on their project here in the next couple months.
Yeah, it's certainly been something they've been talking about. It's been out on social media, and so it was interesting to see that discussion. Another one of the interesting panels, just like your reaction to that, and I will remind people, and you said it in your article, I'm not sure whether they're up yet, but I think they have video of the entire 3 days of action that folks will be able to follow. And I want to go back and look at this one. But what was your reaction to the conversation with Bob Baffert and Todd Pletcher?
Yeah, so this was the second time that Bob Baffert and Todd Pletcher have appeared at the conference. Back in 2019, this symposium organizers decided it would be nice just to have a kind of conversational panel with people in the industry. And
both
so
alumni, right? They both graduated from.
They are both alumni, and Bob Baffert and I are also both Arizona natives. So, so these are more entertaining than they are substantive. But we did get to hear Bob talk a little bit about what it was like to go through what he did over the last 3 years. Following the disqualification of Medina Spirit because of the positive drug test. We did get to hear Pletcher talk about some of his experiences in the racing industry, especially regarding Forte. And so these things, I like them because they break it up a little, right? I have to sit in every one of these things. And it is nice. I ended up writing about this one. Just because of some things that people would want to read about. But then, you talked about the video scene uploaded. I do think everyone should watch 50 Ideas in 50 Minutes. I couldn't write about this because of the 50 Ideas in 50 Minutes, right? But there were some good ideas peppered in there, and it's rapid fire. It's entertaining. There are some simple things in there that racetracks could do. There are some more grand projects that were described, but that was. I was sorry I couldn't write about that one. But like I said, you can't. But yeah, people would be well served to watch 50 minutes of that. So
I was going to ask you about that one because it did seem like it was a lot of fun, and I will give you credit. I also laughed when I read your article where you recommended racing officials can watch it, maybe save it for Derby Day because there's 50 minutes between races, so you can watch it between the races on Derby Day. I laughed.
Yeah, the longest 15 minutes in racing, right? And you know there are some just fun ones. Jay Hub Day makes an argument why people need to continue distinguishing him between Jay Hub Day and Jay Prisman. Apparently they get confused all the time. And then Alex Godoyan, who's a really smart harness guy. One of his ideas was every racetrack needs a bad beat booth. And when you get a bad beat, you can go there and just harangue the employee behind the counter for a minute and then leave. So
that might not be a bad idea. There was also investing in racing future perspectives from the next generation. Our friend Naj Thompson was on that. So, they were looking at the future, and that's typically what this symposium does. And again, people can go back and look. And the 50 ideas in 50 minutes, our friend Dick Powell was on that so that was interesting as well. Before I let you go, any just kind of overarching thoughts on the symposium this week?
Interesting by its absence was all the legal challenges to HISA. We have a new one that came out. I think it was this week, right? Earlier this week?
Yeah.
It was last week. But that was the suit by Churchill Downs Incorporated and NYRA about the funding mechanism. Then you do have the looming Supreme Court judgment on the constitutionality of HISA. So there was no discussion of that. Definitely conspicuous by its absence, but also I think it was probably a planning problem because you have to plan for these things so far in advance, and literally these things are changing day by day, right? So we didn't have any discussion about those legal challenges, but that remains the number one issue for HISA in the industry going into 2025.
Yeah, and if people didn't, they can check you out on that from last week. NYRA and Churchill just kind of both saying we support the organization. We're just disagreeing with maybe the funding model, which lays a lot of the funding on us. And so we'll see how that plays out. And also, just as I'm looking the agenda here, and I read a little bit about it, Lou Sella gave a talk as well. And Oaklawn really has become one of the success stories in the racing game over the past 10 years. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and Sella's talk, if you wanted to boil it down as to how to find success, is that you make sure that when you go to the legislature, when you have a problem, that you have the entire horse racing industry behind you. And the way you have the entire industry behind you is to make sure everyone is going to get a slice of whatever you get from the legislature.
Yeah.
That's how they have been so successful in capitalizing on the legalization of casino-type gambling at Oakland Park. They have plowed a lot of that money into development of the Oakland Park grounds and to improving the racing products. They are now going to be giving away about $1 million a day down there while expanding their race meets. It really is one of the great success stories, but people do have to realize it is one of the great racing success stories because the legislature is protecting them by making sure that they have casino gambling. And the way you do that is to make sure that the entire racing industry goes with one voice to the legislature when it needs that protection.
Yeah, and certainly, we're in a period now when you look at that and you kind of analyze those situations, you wonder, how could this play out in California to get them back
California's a problem.
And back on the right track. Matt, always appreciate the conversation. Again, I'll tell people to check out your kind of the hard news side of the racing game, and they can follow you on drf.com or pulling up the hard copy as well. But appreciate the recap from the symposium this week, and we'll talk again.
Thanks for having me on, Seth.
Appreciate it. Matt Hegarty from the Daily Racing Forum. Again, there used to be a few more of these. As I say, I was on the panel for the simulcast conference years ago. And then there was another one I was on. I was trying to think when I was driving in this morning. I can't think of what that one was. But they're dwindling down. We have up in Saratoga a couple of these conferences. And certainly this one annually is one of the more important ones. And if you read the the agenda and you read the panelists, important people, and that's part of what these conferences do. They also bring industry folks together, and so there can be a little back and forth beyond the panels and whatnot, dinner or just walking around. So they certainly do serve a purpose to focus on certain topics in the industry. And it was interesting, again, to follow up on what happened out in Arizona this past week. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention. Gulfstream Park, again, a couple of nice stakes a little bit later on today. Tropical Park Oaks, Tropical Park Derby, all of that with Brian Nadeau right after this. Stay tuned. Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer. Wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Birdstone is an outside threat. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart very dominant. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Brian Nadeau. You can see him the pregame. You can see him pre-race down at Gulfstream. And this time of year, we all live vicariously. As I drove in this morning, 15 degrees on the dashboard thermometer. So we will be watching and enjoying the action from South Florida a little bit later this afternoon, regardless of the fact that there's two nice stakes. And we'll talk about those with Brian. Brian, good morning.
Hey, buddy. Good morning. You know, Seth, I had to sneak up there for some family stuff early in the week, and I went to the outlets in Lake George, and I was going 35 miles an hour on the Northway in a snowstorm. So, don't feel too bad to me.
It was probably Monday because I drove up to Glen. Monday. I actually drove up to Glens Falls, and on the way up, it was like, there's a little something. But by the time I got on the way back, you're right. I was in the far right lane going 30 and happy to do it. And a couple of tractor trailers zipped by me, and I thought, well, they're brave. And then there's a SUV out in the far left lane that's zipping along, and I'm thinking, wow, just as I'm thinking that, off the road into the ditch. So, it was again, we live vicariously. And I think you have mentioned it before. I think you have fallen into it. You're now in the Florida mindset because for years, I'd go down there. My father was retired. I'd go down and visit for a week. And if you're in December or January, it can be, 65 or whatever. I'd still be at the beach in my bathing suit, but the natives would walk by with parkas.
Yeah, it was 60 the other day when I walked outside on my way to the track, and I said, "This is BS here." I have totally turned into a South Florida guy. So I moved my flight up on Wednesday to get the heck out of Dodge because I said, "There's no way I'm taking a chance of getting stuck here." So
that's right, being snowed in would add, getting canceled because of snow would add insult to injury, no question about it. Well, give us an idea what's the weather look like for today. That we're going to stay on the turf, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't want to use the R word, but for the first time that I can remember, definitely during the championship meet, it was spitting some rain as I drove in today. But I do think we're okay, Seth, and to be perfectly honest with you, a little rain on this turf course is not going to hurt at all. I don't think we're really going to get any for the rest of the day, so we should be fast. We should be firm, and we'll get to them. But the two stakes today are out of this world. The Oaks and the Derby are awesome races.
I agree, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. I talk about it all year long. I love the 3-year-olds on the turf. One of the reasons is there's stakes races in that division, that subdivision, from the start of the year to the end of the year. One of the end of the year stakes for the 3-year-old boys is the Tropical Park Derby. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's start in order. The Tropical Park Oaks also for the 3-year-old fillies, mile and a 16th on the grass. I looked at your picks on the website, and we're in the same ballpark. And so I pulled up a replay. Keeneland Allowance, the end of October. The winner will be number 13, Random Harvest. Going out for Jimmy Toner, undefeated, broke the maiden in the career debut at Kentucky Downs, and then followed up here with a nice win at Keeneland. So now the third start, why not? 2 for 2, try a little stakes competition. Jimmy Toner, a veteran that can certainly have them ready. And we're looking at 10 to 1 on your morning line. I thought this horse was interesting as well. I went 6, 7, 12, and 8. How did you see the Oaks?
Yeah, I mean, I did put her on top, Seth. She's an admitted a reach and a bit of a guess because this is a good group. Some of these gals are very stakes-oriented, and this is a class drop for some of them. But she's got a lot of upside. She's looked good winning both of her starts. Hey, anytime you win on debut at Kentucky Downs, I think is a feather in your cap. And then when you take that and you go elsewhere, because we all know how wonky that turf course is, but then you go to Keeneland and you double up while facing winners breaking from the parking lot, you've got some talent. So she's going to have to prove it today. She's stepping up. She should be 10 to 1. I wouldn't want to take much less than that in this kind of spot. But I think some of these favorites are a little vulnerable. The morning line favorite, the 5 2 around. I mean, she's got a lack of early speed. She's going to be overbet with IRAD. Everybody should know by now on a fast and firm Gulfstream Park turf course, you better be close. You're not going to lose field. That's kind of what I assume she wants to do as a European import. Life's an audible. I don't like her at all today. She hasn't been out since March. She has no speed whatsoever. Viv Ver for Jack Christensen. She's a graded stakes winner here at Gulfstream, but her lack of speed is going to be a real problem for her. She simply ran out of room last time. To me, even though she's not favored on the morning line, the 12 In Our Time is clearly the horse to be for Safi and Edwin Gonzalez. She was so good winning the Stellar Shiraz. Now, the waters are a lot deeper today, but look at her running style. She's perfectly drawn with her speed. She could lead these. She's probably going to likely be kind of 2-path stalking. And that race last time was mighty impressive. They bet her. I think I had her at 15 to 1 that day. There were several scratches, but still, they bet her like they knew. And boy, oh boy, she's never looked a loser in that race. So to me, it goes through her.
Yeah, it's a fun race, no question about it. 20 to 1 on the morning line, Victoria's Dancer, but I just wanted to let you expand a little bit. You mentioned a couple days ago, I heard, and I found it interesting, and I kind of agree, Lionel Reyes, a guy to watch on the turf down there.
Yeah, she's 30 to 1, I think, or I hope she is. That's where she.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, 30. Yeah.
Yeah, she's way out of her element here. But boy, Lionel, I mean, this is not the spot. But just remember his name on the grass going forward in the championship meet, because I guarantee you, he's already done it once. I guarantee you he will boot home 2 or 3 more big number long shots on the turf. He's one of the more underrated riders here. He won a summer riding title a couple of years ago. And, we all kind of know when the IRADs and the big boys, John Velasquez, Luis Saez, Javier, when they come into town, our locals kind of get lost a little bit. But don't lose sight of the fact that the Lionel Reyes, Miguel Vasquez, Edwin Gonzalez, and clearly Edgar Diaz's of the world, they're really top-notch guys too, Seth.
And you talk about the big guys coming down there. It's going to be interesting this winter to see what Dylan Davis does when he gets down there.
I agree. It's going to come after the new year. And don't forget now, with the Paco incident and with Jose Ortiz riding elsewhere this winter, that is like 180 wins, Seth, that have to
That's
go
a great
somewhere.
point. That's a great point. I hadn't even thought of that,
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go
And Dylan Davis, I mean, certainly he didn't know it at the time. He was coming anyway. But my goodness, is he stepping into a really good situation? I know there's barns down here that are going to support him. So I think it's an exciting time for his family and connections to be down here during the championship.
Yeah, he's just having such a good year, as evidenced by Saratoga, where the number of wins, but the ROI was insane. Yeah. And then he's kept it going since. The 11th race today, the Tropical Park Derby, 3-year-old boys on the turf at a mile and a 16th. I'm taking a look at Cugino. I've liked the West Point horse throughout the career, the Shug trainee. Live High, Live Low is interesting to me. Do you have scratches? Will the 13 sneak in? Do we know that?
I don't have them yet.
Okay, if the 13 does
be in. If the 13 draws in, he's interesting with that giant number last time. I don't really believe it at all at Churchill Downs. Like, I don't think those races count, to be perfectly honest with you, over that turf course. But he's got a huge figure. Echo Lane. Yeah, they'll probably be in around 10-15.
Yeah, so he's maybe a little bit interesting to me. But I pulled up again looking at your selections over at the Gulfstream website. And, of course, you can find them on Capital OTB as well with the Matrix. But I pulled up a replay of the Showing Up Stakes from November 2nd. It's going to be number 10, Silent Heart. I looked at this one. I took a close look, and eventually I went 10, 1, 13, and 7. But I do think Silent Heart is live. Give us your thoughts on the Tropical Park Derby.
Yeah, I like him a lot in here, Seth. I think the Oaks is the type of race you could have a lot of fun with and spread and come up with something a little funky, which I might be doing with this owner horse. I wouldn't, me personally at least, I'm not advocating that in the Derby. I think it is, to me, it's a 2-horse race, and you're going to get a better price on Silent Heart. He has more speed than Cugino. He loves this turf course. And I'll tell you what, Seth, his comeback here in the Showing Up, and he faces obviously a different kind of horse today in Cugino, but his comeback in the Showing Up said to me, you better look out now in 2025 that he could bridge the gap into a really good 4-year-old. And I know we're still at the end of the year, but I think it's onward and upward to him to get first run on Cugino. Cugino's clearly the horse to be 9-5. He could be lower than that stuff. With IRAD and Shug and West Point, see all the greatest stakes races on his resume. But I think he's at a little bit of a tactical disadvantage with Silent Heart. And so to me, it's just 9-10 to the hoop. I don't know how far the one wants to run. I think that's the interesting thing. Yeah. He's got the big figures, Live High, Live Low. But it's right there in front of you. The 2 big figure races were at 1 turn at Aqueduct. The 2-turn races, while they've been pretty solid, not going to beat any of these, classier horses in here.
Yeah, 2 interesting stakes for the 3-year-olds, the boys and the girls. And you and I were talking before we went on the air, and we mentioned the 7th race for the 2-year-olds, which is also an interesting 6-furlong event. For me in this 7th, again, nice field of 10 in here. I have a 9, 1, 7, and 3. Ain't No Disco. This is the kind of race where normally I'll look for some firsters that maybe have something. None of them jumped out particularly in me. I'm going to be interested to see where you went, but I thought the Brian Lynch horse was intriguing. Commendatore, the 1 horse off the first start of the career. The firster for me that maybe is intriguing was Majorca, the Pletcher runner, and 3 Kingdoms, I thought, at a price, had a couple of works that were intriguing. But how did you see race 7?
Yeah, so Commendatore is my best bet of the day.
Okay.
I'm surprised he's not running farther. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've looked at the condition book. Maybe the race just isn't in there. But he really impressed me on debut. Because Grayscale is Sappy's best 2-year-old. The word was out. He was 1-5, and he ran off the screen in good time. But if you go back and watch the race, Commendatore, he wasn't, I don't think he was all that interested. The connections in winning that day, a $700,000 Sun and Swirling Candy, but he was on the hard chase the whole way, and he didn't really want to let Grayscale get away from him. He succumbed late, but I was really impressed. I was hoping they offered this horse in the future book at Churchill. They didn't do it. I like this horse a lot, quite a bit, and I think he's a really going to turn into a Triple Crown kind of prospect for these guys. Gustavo and J.R. Ranch and Ramiro Restrepo, we already know they did Mage. And I'm against the firsters. I didn't think Majorca worked all that well for Fletcher. We'll see about him. Playa Del Mar, the Godolphin firster for Mott, probably going to need the race. Gosker with big works from Brendan Walsh, but I think longer and maybe even Coast might be his future. I think it's a great time for Commendatore. I don't like the rail, and I wish he was going a little longer, but I'm going to stick with him today, my best bet.
Yeah, I agree. Normally, as I say, this is a kind of race where I'm looking for some firsters, but none of them really jumped out to me in particular. But it's a fun race. That's the 7th today at Gulfstream. And before we let you go, just wanted to hit on a couple other topics. We talked a little bit about jockeys, and it was interesting. About a week and a half ago, Rajiv Murrah on his comeback got a victory down there. And it has been interesting on social media. He talked about trying to get back, leaving the Fox program and getting back into the saddle and kind of having to re-engage the weight situation. And so it was fun to see Rajiv in the winner's circle, as I say, about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, yes to all of it, Seth. He wants to get 2,000 career wins. He was in the office probably 6 or 8 weeks ago now for a good half hour, just kind of shooting the breeze and kind of giving Eddie Gray and the story and what he was looking to do, and he wanted to get to 2,000, and he even admitted, it's going to take a while, and I kind of feel like we've seen it. He hasn't ridden that much, but I think he's a name. We all know he's, a multiple Grade 1 winner, Breeders' Cup winning jockey. In his day, he stacked up with anybody. He could play with anybody. Now, it's going to take him some time to get his kind of legs under his strength back, but I think you've already seen it. As you mentioned, he picked up the win the other day. I think as the days tick off the calendar, Seth, I think he's kind of a guy to pay a little more attention to, because I'm going to assume each and every day he's going to get a little bit stronger, a little more fit. And I think that'll pay dividends probably in February and March.
I agree, and having interviewed him, a nice guy too, and it's been interesting to watch on social media. He has talked a little bit about how tough it is to come back like that. So I agree that as he gets into it a little bit more, I think he will be interesting to watch. And I just wanted to hit on a couple other things, because now we are into the championship meet, and I know from when we go down there to cover. And we'll be down again for the Florida Derby this year. But when we go down to cover, we meet a lot of people from up here. Hey, Capital OTB. So there are a lot of snowbirds down there. And I wanted to remind folks that sounds like fun. And up at Saratoga, we know it can be. But on Saturday mornings, if you're down there, you can swing by at 7:30 and grab a little breakfast at the track, which I assume is probably a similar situation to Saratoga. You got tram tours, which we have up at Saratoga. So I would tout that to people on Saturday mornings if you're down there for some racing. And coming up on January 11th, if people are down there, Jockeys and Jeans. Reading about that, and that sounds like a great event to benefit the PDJF. And I was looking at the lineup they already have scheduled. Angel Cordero, Jerry Bailey, Steve Cawthon, Julie Crone, Edgar Prado, Pat Day, Lafitte Pinkai, Ramon Dominguez, Jean Cruguet, and Chris McCarron among the jockeys who will be there to sign autographs and whatnot. So again, January 11th, the championship meet underway, and a lot of great opportunities, obviously on the racetrack with the racing, but just participating down the track as well.
Yeah, as you were reading those names, I'm thinking to myself, there's probably like 40,000 wins amongst that group there. What a murderer's row of who's who in the immortal jockeys of the sport. And yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to that. It's raised millions over the years, and what a great cause for the men and women that, they literally put their lives on the line each and every day. So we're happy to support that. I want to give a shout to next Saturday. That's like it's this preview day, Seth. We're going to draw those races today. That is going to be a huge, huge day. There are 3 graded stakes and 5 all told, with the Harlan Holiday as the prep for the Pegasus. So we are amped up for that, and that is going to be, we've got good Saturdays today, second to none so far, but that is one of the marquee Saturdays of the championship meet. And, I think we'll find out a lot about the locals going forward for the big day on January 25th.
Very good. Championship meet is underway. And again, you can catch Brian along with Samantha and Ron pregame show and, the pre-race commentary throughout the day from the paddock. You guys do a great job. Pass on my hellos to everybody, to Ron and Samantha, but everybody in the press office as well down there. Again, we're looking forward to our visit Florida Derby weekend, but we will certainly talk in the meantime as well.
Yeah, thank you, Seth, and happy holidays to you and everybody back home and at OTB. And, yeah, looking forward to seeing you down here after the new year as well. So thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Again, great day of racing today with the two turf stakes coming up for the 3-year-olds, the fillies and the boys. A little bit later on, the Oaks and the Derby down there. So it should be a great day of racing at Gulfstream Park. I'll wrap it up here. I will remind you once again today here at the Clubhouse Racebook, we do have the Trifecta Challenge. Love to have you come down, watch the racing, and maybe have a little extra fun and win a little extra something with the $100 Trifecta Challenge. That's today here at the Clubhouse Racebook. A little later on today, we have the Turfway Bounty Bet. Early pick 5 at Turfway. You have to play with your Capital OTB bet account, and you get a shot at the bounty. Do note, I do want to keep reminding people, that's an everyday thing, except for next week. We're just taking a little break next week with the Turfway Bounty Bet, but it is available today. So early pick 5 at Turfway later on today. And don't forget, NFL Sundays here at the Clubhouse Racebook. All the racing action, all the football action as well, every Sunday right here at the Racebook. Also, grab a little lunch at our food vendor, Black Bear. You don't have to wait for Sunday to do that. You can come down and grab a little lunch today as well. All right, I'll be back again. Early start for racing at NYRA today down at Aqueduct. There's an 11:40 start time. That's why we're on a little bit early. So I will be kicking in for OTB Live, probably 11:30 or so, to take a look at the opener down at Aqueduct, and then we'll swing through the afternoon with lots of great lots of great racing action, including some nice stakes. I'll look at Aqueduct and some Gulfstream, but we'll have plenty more action here on the network as well. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Hope you enjoyed the show this morning. Got a little info out of it, maybe a little info to cash some tickets this afternoon. That's what it's all about. And we'll be back for the late morning, afternoon program, OTB Live, as I say, about an hour and a half or so. We'll see you then.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
We would like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet runs now through March 30th with high-quality action throughout, including the Florida Derby on Saturday, March 29th.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.